Hey guys, welcome back to Shelf's Life. On today's episode, Travis is too cheap to pay somebody else to do the work. We're going to be doing some service on our motorhome. Basically, I have an overheating issue on long hills, mainly like out west in the mountains and stuff like that. Nothing really local around here, but we're going to do some services on it. If you own something around an '05 with the Cat 350 in it, you kind of know what we're getting into as far as the radiator and the charged air cooler being plugged up. And that's probably why you're watching this video. So anyways, let me show you what we got going on here and what we're going to do. Today's plan is we are going to remove this radiator, and on the other side of it obviously is a charged air cooler. We're going to be looking at making a modification to the slobber tube underneath of it, because that's pretty much what is causing our situation. Why we're in there. We're also going to be replacing basically the radiator hoses. The fan belt has already been done. The water pump belt is loose. I just checked that last night, so that's kind of another reason to go in there. We're going to replace the water pump pulley. We've got a couple things on the turbo we're going to look at, but mainly today we're going to get this thing ripped apart, get the radiator out of it, charged air cooler out of it, and see what kind of mess we got back there. So first step we already did was pull the screws out of the bottom of this panel here, which is the AC condenser fan assembly. We got to roll that up. There's a couple screws down behind here that hold this back panel on. We need to get this back panel off to access all this crap basically. On the other side, same thing. This is the AC condenser for the actual house air conditioner or the heat pump system. Same thing, couple screws around the bottom, couple screws behind that door, and then back here. So this is all loose now. And it basically is back in here. I don't know exactly what, but we got some bolts down in here, a couple screws here. So basically, we're gonna get this panel ripped off and see what's behind it. So hang tight. Basically, a couple bolts down here in this bracket, a couple screws up here. I noticed the screws are missing out of this thing. So we'll fix that while we're in there. So next, we're gonna pull this oil filter off and just start getting everything out of the way. So this system up here, this is the power steering reservoir basically, and obviously the overflow for the radiator. That is basically a part of this assembly as of right now. You can't get to the bolts to disconnect any of that. So pulled the two lines, drained the system, hung the lines over here, zip ties, blah blah blah. Best I can figure out over here, unbolt all these, because again you can't get to the bolt for the bracket to hold the bracket on. So I'm going to eliminate those three. They're going to stay with the motorhome. The lines are disconnected out here. Alright, so the lighting is probably not great in here. Apologize for that, but it is what it is. First things first, I obviously got the bed removed and the bed frame removed. Obviously got the service panels removed so we can access the motor and the cooling system up here, which gives you pretty much no access to anything. So, right side looking down, disconnected the charged air cooler, took the entire pipe out from the turbo, like I said before. That's out of the way. Disconnect the hoses from the overflow tank over here in the corner. There is a plug hidden back behind there. Actually, it's sitting right there on the top right now, but there's a plug back there you need to unhook. Radiator hose. The upper one is not accessible back in that corner. I see no way of getting to it without cutting some major holes. So that hose comes down this way underneath this steel frame right here and hooks into the motor at the thermostat housing. There's a couple bolts and straps and zip ties on this side here. Pretty straightforward. Hose clamp off, cut all that crap. My plan is, as we pull the radiator out, that hose is going to go with it, and the charge air intake to the intake over here. So it is disconnected off the intake. Same thing. There's no way to get back there to unhook any of that from anywhere I can see anyways. Maybe if you go climbing underneath there, but my theory is I'm going to pull the radiator out, the charged air cooler is going to come with it, that upper radiator hose is coming with it, and the charged air line to the intake is also going to come with it. I don't know if that's going to work, but we're going to find out. I've got one more thing. As far as I can tell, down in here, there's a steel bar that goes from the radiator right there down here to the frame. 3/4 inch bolt on each side. I'm going to take that bolt off. Same thing on this side. I'm going to take this bolt off, and those brackets, if all go well, are going to come out with the radiator and the cooler and this and that and the lines all together by myself. Well, we got those 2 bolts out of the steel bars that go into the frame, and we got these 2 bolts out down here in the bottom of the radiator. There's nuts up underneath of there. They didn't come off nicely, but they did come off. As far as I can tell, everything's loose. I can move everything. I don't know if that's the answer or not, but this is bolted. You can't get it out. You can't get it out. You can't get it out. This is all one unit, so I'm going to do probably something dumb here. I'm going to bring my tractor in with my forks. I'm going to put them underneath of that radiator. I'm going to rig up a ratchet strap from there back to the headache rack, or tilt it back, lift it up, drive it out. If it doesn't work, it's going to cost me a couple $1,000. Whatever. Anyways, see what happens, I guess. Hang on. What else is holding it, but there's got to be something somewhere. Well, it's out. I've done some pretty stupid things in my day, and I gotta tell you, that's one of them. That just was not designed to come back out of there. That went in before obviously the motorhome went on, and that was not an easy task. Getting everything disconnected really wasn't that bad. Dirty, but it really wasn't that bad. Trying to get the radiator itself out. Problem with it is these bushings here were down in this frame with studs going down through it, through the radiator frame itself. You can't take them out. So basically we had to lift the radiator up 2.5 inches. Well, with the inner shroud, you can't. The inner shroud is wrapped around the fan shroud here, and there's not enough lift to do that. The answer was to take the shroud off, but honestly, that did not look feasible. I tried to take this section off, but that's not going to do you any good because the fan's still in the way. You can't take the fan off because the bolts are on this side. You can't get to them because there's a shroud. So what I did is I unbolted the 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here, and I took this whole steel frame down and then pried it backwards with the radiator to get the fan shroud to clear. I'm sorry, to get the radiator shroud to come loose of the fan shroud, giving enough room to lift it up. And it sucked. I had to pry these rubber grommets out of there while it was in place. It was not the way to do it. I really don't know what the correct answer was to do it. Let me show you the radiator here. So this is the shroud we're talking about. And on the radiator, so up here was the overflow tank. And remember, there's a wall right here, so you can't get to these bolts to take the overflow tank off. And the bolt for the shroud is back up in here. 4 across the bottom of the radiator, 2 on the sides that go into the intercooler. And then you had to pry. I mean, even with the radiator assembly sitting here on my forks, my tractor, that still sucked trying to get that shroud off. I don't know how the hell you're supposed to do it inside of there, but what I'm going to do is I am going to, for reassembly purposes, I'm going to take the trailer hitch off, and I'm going to take this bar off, and that's going to allow this to actually slide out. So then I can put this all back together the way it was, set the radiator in, and then slide this whole thing back into the frame. Over top of that, 2 bolts, boom, boom, it'll be done. As far as why we removed it, it definitely needed to come out. So I know it's dark. I'm going to try to show you. This is the charged air cooler, and as you can see, this is pretty much 100% blocked all the way down. From here down is 100% blocked. From here over is 100%. Basically, there's an opening right here, and then this corner over here is okay, I guess. So I'm going to say 80% blocked on the charged air cooler. On the radiator, so remember, the charged air cooler sits in front of the radiator. So now the radiator is pretty clean from here up to here. From here up That's all blocked. I can see a little bit of light through there, but not much. So that was definitely not helping the situation as far as my cooling. Now on the third side of this, besides all the dirt in here, back in here is the water pump belt. And you can see how loose this is. So at that point, we're going to pull the fan off it. Maybe that inner shroud. We're going to start with the fan. We're going to get the fan off it. That'll access the front of the motor. Then from there, we're going to look at the water pump belt. Obviously, we got a new one coming. We're going to look at the idler pulleys, bearings, stuff like that. Degrease it, power wash it, and just start putting it back together. So that's it for today. I got to clean this mess up, and we got a lot of parts to get cleaned up. This is what we did. We spent a few days off camera trying to get a few things wrapped up here. For starters, we got charged air cooler and the radiator all degreased and power wash, and I tell you, that was a freaking mess. I thought I could simply go in from the back side, or it'd be, I guess, the front side of the radiator and just blow everything back through it, and that crap didn't budge. I mean, you couldn't scrape it out there with a putty knife. So we ended up having to go this way, and literally, I took the charged air cooler and the radiator, separated the two of them, broke a few things too. I'll show you that in a minute. But basically, I had to blow everything through it with the pressure washer, like 6 inches away. That is the nastiest crap I've ever dealt with. But it's clean. I can see all the way through it now. And like I said, we had a little issue where it fell over. It was leaned on the forks of the tractor. Not quite sure what happened. Like I said, one minute it was standing there sitting against the forks, and next minute it was leaning against the forks. It came out, no damage to the radiator whatsoever. It's all in a steel cage, so nothing got hurt, but it did break this tank that was up on here. As you can see, it's got a nice hole in it now, and I know what you're thinking, not a big deal, just go buy a new one, right? That's what I thought. Negative. Nothing available in the United States on that part number, or Canada as far as that goes, because I had them look. Nothing on eBay, nothing on Amazon, nothing anywhere on Google. All kinds of pictures of that part number, but nothing available. So we're going to fabricate something there. That's a whole nother day. We're not going to worry about it. As far as the motorhome itself, back in the shop here, we got the fan. That was black. It's now yellow. Imagine that. Look at there. A yellow motor. That was black. I mean, just freaking grease and grime. This has only got not even 50,000 miles on it. Anyways, while we're in here, we replaced the water pump belt. It was loose and original. Well, I'm only assuming it's original. While we were in there, I did not like the bearings in the tensioner idler pulley here. So I took it off the motor, and I did read on the internet where a lot of people say you got to be careful because you're going to break this one bolt back in here. It breaks off in the timing cover basically, and I could see why. I bet it took 20 minutes to get that bolt out of there as carefully as I could be. Just a lot of free all, in and out, in and out, in and out. Finally got it out, didn't break it. Ran into town, got a couple new bearings for it, pressed the old ones out, pressed the new ones in. We're good to go that way. So while we're in here, we're replacing the radiator hoses. We got one there, we got one here that goes onto the power steering cooler, which is this big old tank right here. And other than that, I think we're about ready to start going back together with it. We're going to get the radiator. I got to put these motor mounts back in because that idea didn't work. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to put the bottom frame, that cross member, I think we're going to put that back in. Now that I have the shroud off of the radiator and I know where all the bolts are to access it, actually let me show you that quick. I think, yeah, basically now all the grease is gone and I can see where everything is. Basically that shroud was just bolted on in the corners, and then there's two on the side here that bolt on. It just pretty much slides over that. There's some screws across the bottom. I'm sure they're not going to be too easy to access, but I think it's going to be faster than trying to do my original plan, which is move that lower frame back in and take the trailer hitch off. So we're going to fight it. Like I said, now that all the grease is gone and I can see what the hell's going on in there, this might not be that bad to put back together. So I'm not going to be able to record a whole lot of it because it's dark in here. Not dark, but dark on camera, as you can see. Turn around. So basically, we're going to throw the fan back on. We're going to place a couple belts. We'll get everything ready. We'll set that radiator in there and let you know how it goes from there. So hang tight. It's in there. Hopefully it's not broke. I mean, it didn't go too bad. Just a lot of stuff to try to get by yourself, which kind of sucks, but it's back in there. And what's going to make this easier is that bracket. So that bracket at the beginning of the video was mounted up here. It had the overflow tank, which went all the way back into here, and then that power steering reservoir here, which we broke. But you can't get that off because the bolts are up against this. There's no way to access it really. And the shroud bolts, which ended up being broke anyways, or I broke them taking it out, whatever, I don't really care, are underneath of that. And I wasn't sure how you were going to get to those. Same thing here. And then there's that panel that went across the top. Well, basically, I'm going to change a few things and put it back together my way. So I'm leaving this bracket off, which is going to give me access to the inside of it basically. This top piece, again, we're going to make some changes. I'm going to bolt this on later and then put the overflow tank on. I'm going to make some modifications to that bracket so the bolts are already in there and it's all said and done. And then that reservoir that goes here, I'm going to have to build a new one obviously, but that's just going to bolt on externally instead of internally, because basically you can't get the power steering reservoir off without taking this bracket off. Can't get that bracket off with the overflow tank covering it all. It's a dumb design. It is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm just going to make it work the way I want it to work. So we're going to continue slapping stuff back together here and let you know when we get a little further, I guess. So today I have to make something out of that power steering tank that we broke. So let's head over to shop and see what we're going to do. So as I was talking about earlier in the video, the radiator fell over and busted this all to crap. Put a nice hole in it, cracked it all the way down, whatever. It's junk, nothing we can do with that. So I spent probably 4 hours on the internet trying to find anything that would replace that, and I come up with nothing. So the only thing I can come up with is to basically take some of this and one of them, one of those, a couple of these, one of those, and make this. Well, it's a new day in the shop again. It's Saturday morning. I was hoping to get all this wrapped up last night, but basically a friend of mine called and asked me if I wanted to go eat food and drink beer in a bar instead. And well, honestly, that sounded a whole lot funnier working on this frickin' mess. So anyways, this is what we ended up with. It's the only thing I can think of to get myself out of trouble, I guess. So this is the bracket here that went on the back of the motorhome, hanging off the radiator, and basically this thing bolted on there, but it bolted on through the back, which you cannot access when that thing is mounted on in the motorhome basically. So, and that tank is, well, irreplaceable, I guess. None available in the world. So we made this tank equivalent to that tank, so it's going to hold the same amount of fluid. It is a vented lid, so that should be good. Basically, I modified this bracket here, and instead of it bolting through the back, I welded bolts in there. So basically, once this is mounted in the motorhome, this will just kind of fit on there like so. Hook the lines up, fill it up with fluid, and should be out of trouble for the most part. So we're going to get this put back in the motorhome, because I think this is about all we got to do. Put this plate back in, hook a few hoses up, put the overflow tank in, put this guy on, fill it up with fluid, and frickin' hope nothing leaks, I guess. So anyways, let's get this done. I'm sick of working on it. Well, luckily, we're running out of parts here real quick. The Last piece is our little creation here. And basically by creating this new box to replace the one that I broke because I'm an idiot, now this is mounted lower and externally, so I can remove this, which allows us to get to these two top bolts, which you could not get to before. Without getting to those two bolts, you can't get this out. It's freaking stupid. But I fixed it. Now it's not so stupid. But hopefully I'll never take this stupid thing apart again, because this should be done, especially with a for sale sign going in it soon. But I think we've outgrown this girl. We're gonna move on to something a little different. But so yeah, we're gonna get this bolted in, and then we're gonna get one thing left, and that's fix the old slobber tube. Sounds like that's the reason all this happened anyway. So I'll show you that here in a second, what we're gonna do to fix that, and then that is gonna be it. I got the cooling, it's all full. I haven't started it yet because obviously I need to get power steering fluid put back in it, get these lines hooked up, all that good stuff. So hopefully those lines are long enough. If not, we're gonna be redoing that too. Looking good. Okay, slobber tube. The whole creator of the problem here, from what I understand. We're gonna go into the motorhome to that mess right there. See this little tube hanging out here full of slobber? Basically the theory is, according to the old internet, and of course the internet never lies, so this vents the crankcase of the engine, and basically the crap drips out of here, and then the air blowing across here to the fan. You can't see it, but the fan's up in there. Basically it takes all this crap, sucks it up there, sucks it into the fan, throws it into the charged air cooler, and from there it just picks up all the dirt and grime and everything else and plugs up the charged air cooler, which plugs up the radiator, which causes the unit to overheat on long hills. So anyways, all we're going to do here is I'm going to cut this flush. Where are you at? Here we go. All we're going to do here is cut this flush so it's straight, clean it out. Now I'm going to get a plastic tee to put in there. We're going to get a little more hose, and basically we're just going to run it back probably above the trailer hitch back there. So when it does drip, it'll drip after the fan assembly, I suppose is what I'm after. That way the fan doesn't suck it up and jam it into my charged air cooler again. So hopefully we won't have this issue again. I mean, it's not going to hurt to do some maintenance on this thing too. Every couple of years, probably degrease it and power wash the radiator from the outside here. But anyways, we're going to run to the old Menards and get some more parts. So we'll be back. Menards this morning, got ourselves a slobber tube extension kit. Basically, it's just a 1-inch T, I don't even know, PVC of some sort. This is just a section of 1-inch wire line, 5-foot piece. It's the only thing I could really find that'll work, basically. So basically, we're just going to slide this up into that slobber tube underneath the motorhome, run this to the back somewhere, cut it off where it looks pretty, call it a day. While we're in there, we're also going to replace these lines on the turbo. So I have an overboost issue on long hills. Basically, this engine can only make 29 pounds of boost, and I'm making 30. So I've been in and out of the wastegate, serviced the wastegate, the valve, the solenoid, all that good stuff. And then yesterday I just happened to see this. Can't see nothing wrong with it unless you flip it over. And that thing is ripped wide open. Just deteriorated, 20 years old. What do you do? So we're going to replace that with some new vacuum line. I did order this new T. I thought this was the issue with the turbo, but that's not the issue. So hey, I got a $30 T now for no good reason. So anyways, we're gonna get this thing put in, get the lines put in, and then we should be ready to fire this thing up, hopefully bleed the cooling system out, and hopefully everything's good to go from there. So I'm gonna go get this put in, and we'll be back in a minute. The Menards Special Slobber Tube Extension Kit 101 installed, basically just tied into the slobber tube like we said. I took that 1-inch plastic wire line, I basically just took a torch to it and heated it up. Gave it a nice little bend right there, shoved it out the back, make sure it's running downhill so all the crap can drip out of it. I know you're not laying under here like I am, but if you can visualize from that slobber tube, if you look over at the frame rail to the left, it's just kind of dusty. If you go from that slobber tube to the right, that is just grease and grime all the way back right to the radiator. So pretty sure this is going to at least help our situation. New power steering tank on and full. The coolant is mostly full. I think it's just time to fire it up now and run it through a little heat cycle, purge the air out of it, and hope nothing leaks.